Hello fellow Singaporeans, I'm a tutor and a third-year law student with the Singapore Management University. I have taken law modules on constitutional law, administrative law and criminal law. And further, I took a module called Business, Government and Society, where my professor Elizabeth Su routinely challenges the conventional views and looks at the other side of the picture. So, my law modules were also conducted in a seminar style, where we debate and elucidate the various arguments for and against the ruling party and what they are doing. So thus I think that I have more experience and I'm better qualified than Amos Yee to comment about these issues. I've also scored 8 points at my GCE O-levels, better than Amos' 11 points, and he's very proud of it. I went on to get 5 distinctions at my A-levels. Of course, I entered this discussion humbly. I'm set to get only a second office, but Mr. Lee topped Cambridge with a double first honours. First, my stand. Second, I'll present him some legal advice. Finally, in another video, I will systematically dismantle his arguments, if they are even arguments. Despite the flaws and mistakes of Mr. Lee, if you even call them flaws, i.e., the use of the Internal Security Act against so-called Marxist conspirators and communists, the use of defamation law against opposition members like JDJ, Chi Chen-Zhuan, laws pertaining to unlawful assembly being used against recent people like Roy that's how you pronounce his name, his bluntness and frequent interruption of opposition members when they are talking. He was always interrupting Mr. Chow. And even the abolishment of appeals to the Privy Council after JDJ's case was acquitted, when it was sent up to the Privy Council in UK, whereby the Lord Justices said that there was grievous injustice done to the man. And the fact that the CJ, the Chief Justice, is appointed by the Prime Minister. Okay, do correct me if I'm wrong with that, but I don't think so. I didn't do my research. All this is based on my knowledge. The issues with separation of powers, i.e. the AG wearing 2 hats, and one as the public prosecutor and the other one as the advisor of the government, right? And the GRC system, which is criticized by the opposition, which says that the PAP only gets like 60% of the popular vote, but gets 90% of the seats because of the GRC system and the drawing of election boundaries, right? So of course there are arguments that the GRC system should be there because we should protect and we should have adequate minority representation in Parliament, right? So I would think that in spite of all this, Mr. Lee has probably done more good than bad. Yeah. So under his leadership, Singapore has become where she is today, surpassing the likes of Korea, Japan, Taiwan, neighboring nations like Malaysia and New Zealand. And according to New Zealand and Australian parliamentary assemblies, which had won Mr. Lee recently, we used to read foreign aid from them, and now we have twice the GDP, gross domestic product per capita of these nations. And they said that Mr. Lee was a great man, and they have a lot to improve on, i.e. Australia and New Zealand said that we have a lot to improve on. They were jolted into reality when Mr. Lee said, Singapore has come so far, where are you now? So if Mr. Lee was such a horrible dictator as you put him to be, why would so many Western democracies and even neighboring countries like Indonesia say such positive things about him and what he did? So why is his insight also greatly valued by China, India, Australia, even the UK and the US? But Mr. Lee were wrong. Why would tens of thousands of people go to see him, even weeping when he passed away? Well, I was initially convinced it was a climate of fear, recalculated, a personally cult like Putin and Kim Jong-il. Not to compare with him with those people, but it's so much better, yeah? Okay, I thought it was something similar, like a personal cult, not to say that he's like those people, right? And everyone cried, but later, when I delved deeper into the dark period, I realized that this was a giant of a man who did far more than we can imagine. If he had to silence any political opposition, okay, or maybe he sent some people to jail because they also called Marxists or communists. He might have reasons to do that. And for the record, the Marxist conspirators, Mr. Lee claimed that he was not the one who did it. He said it was Mr. Goh who sent them to be detained under the ISA. So, where was I? So, if he had to silence any political opposition was probably a necessary evil, so he was a utilitarian focused on the end result, i.e. a stable and prosperous Singapore which we have today, right? The problems in Singapore today, if there are even problems, example, shortage of hospital beds, doctors, the Gini index, inequality, right? MBS casino, and the suicides that MRT state that is happening, I don't know if it's true, the suicides as a result of MBS and I guess the gambling losses, right? CPF return rates being, I don't know, the 6% and 3% that Mr. Roy was saying. I don't know if that's true, I haven't done my research. And also the stagnant, and also the stagnant wages, i.e. we've been earning around the same. At least I've been earning around the same for the past few years, but the cost of living has increased drastically. Right? Might not even be influenced by Mr. Lee, but all this might be the result of the new heart, not the old guard. So let's not go to that. Let's not talk about those issues, okay? Yes, I was shocked at the sheer amount of news coverage. It was getting annoying, to be honest, because I did not know, right, what he had done in such great detail. I wasn't really pay attention during my history class. But I got A2 anyway. I studied it in like 3 days, my social studies, and I got A2, right? I was literally sleeping my entire 2 years in my secondary school when I did social studies and history. So anyway, let's get back to the topic. Yes, I was shocked at the sheer amount of news coverage, and even quite propaganda. I don't know, for the upcoming general election, but I'm just saying that. I'm not insinuating, I'm just saying that that's a probability, right? And I'm not saying that the PAP is controlling the press, but it might be, the press might be covering it because they probably felt indebted to what Mr. Lee has done, right? So I told myself I must find the truth. So I researched day and night, and I came to the conclusion, and I still stick by it. Yet it was the same conclusion that I had when I studied legal studies and various topics in school. It was the same conclusion, and the conclusion is that Mr. Lee did much more good than bad. Yeah, my dad knows Mr. Lee and Lee Wei-Ling, and he swears that they are good, humble, direct, and frugal people. Mr. Lee even has tattoos on his shirt, and he continues to wear it. He would get angry if you said not to wear the shirt. Okay, now question. If Mr. Lee was as power hungry and money hungry, why would he work till his last days? Why was he working even before his coronary bypass? If he wanted money, he could well have went around the globe finding and researching investment opportunities. So the truth, he was never power hungry. I even heard that he rejected a CIA bribe of 23 million, which was a big sum back then. I mean, if you take into account inflation. So even though I did not physically go to mourn for Mr. Lee, as I'm still reserved about some things he had done, I still feel sad that he, our founding father, has passed away. It's just human nature, right? It's just empathy to feel bad when anyone, even Xi Shenzhuan, passes away, you might feel a little upset. So, but in you I sense no empathy. Do you have Asperger's syndrome? Well, I forgot one point. If Mr. Lee was so hated by the people, why did he get more than 60% of the popular vote throughout his prime ministership? And that was the law, right? It went as high as 70% plus, right? So are you insinuating that the population was brainwashed, or that elections were rigged? Those are serious and asinine assertions. To inculcate a climate of fear is part and parcel of every profession, including for law and medicine. The lawyer will convince the client that if he goes to handle the case by himself, it's going to mess up. The doctors tell the patient, if you don't get medical treatment, you die. The comments are against the civil and criminal law. First, Section 298 of the Penal Code. Inaudible is the penal code. That's wrong. It should be penal code. Yeah? And the Sedition Act for your comments against Christianity. Second, the MRHA can be used to get a gag order, a restraining order. Third, I'm sure that the ISA could be used against you too. You're right. Detention without trial, probably even indefinitely. Of course, if your hands are tied, they can only question the procedural propriety as to whether, as this is because there is an outside clause in ISA Section 18. Right? It is only if the courts really want to that they say, okay, there was a breach of natural justice, let's step in, let's ignore the outside clause, let's review this case anyway. But that will lead to a constitutional crisis, probably unlikely in Singapore, since the judges tend to take separation of power very seriously and tend to be less anti-executive and legislative, right? As opposed to Malaysia, just before this constitutional crisis, the judges were doing all kinds of nonsense to overthrow, to try to disturb the government, for lack of a better word. So fourth, they can also get you under Section 8 ISA. Fifth, do note that there is a right to counsel in Singapore, but subject to the judicial interpretation, i.e. you will have a right to counsel, but that's only within a reasonable time. So what's reasonable time? You might not even see a lawyer. The sixth point, defamation. No defense is likely to apply, fair commands, justification, etc. Doesn't apply. You said he's a dictator when Singapore has a democratic and transparent voting system. Right? We even have opposition members looking at the counting, and there are even serial numbers to ensure that there's no rigging of the votes. Yeah? You said he's a horrible person because everyone is scared, everyone is afraid that if they say something like that, they might get into trouble. That is not enough to justify him as being a horrible person. You said he controlled the entire media education, proliferating nationalistic propaganda on a daily basis. This is a baseless accusation. He might have controlled foreign media presence, according to some act that he passed. But other than that, there's no evidence that SPH is the government. Also, to find out what those, and also, he said, quote, to find out what those motherfuckers are doing with the money, suggests this, unquote, they suggest that include innuendo that the government ministers are squandering or misappropriating the funds. This is defamatory. I'm not sure if your plan will work. What's your plan? Well, video 1, to gain fame, and then video 2, to apologize, try to get away with any local damage. Trust me. You'll still have to pay for Mr. Davinder Singh's lawyer fee. He's a PAP's lawyer, I think. And that is a lot of money. Yeah? Roy had to pay $29,000. You might also be incarcerated in a boys' home if you cannot be sent to jail for seditious remarks. There's contempt of court too, where you might get incarcerated and no defense of fair criticism applies in your case. I don't think your criticism of the court system was fair at all. You said Mr. Lee Kuan Yew controls the judicial system, which is not true. Well, it might be true only to the extent that he appoints a Chief Justice and can dismiss the Chief Justice if I am correct. Please check that out. But that he controls the judges suggests that innuendo, right? Instead of saying that he appoints a CJ and can dismiss the CJ, you say that he controls the judges, right? You are imputing, right? The innuendo is that the court is a kangaroo court. That's nonsense. It's blasphemy. So I advise all YouTubers not to republish this video or link to it, as each act of republication is defamatory ipso facto. To sum that up, I'm grateful for whatever Mr. Lee had done. I'm inclined to conclude that whatever wrongs he had done is for the sake of Singapore and should be kept in mind. Okay? there will probably be injustices, but okay, they should not eclipse his achievements. When I graduate, we earn 5 to 10,000 a month in a few years' time, far more than what the Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysians earn. So, very happy we're a prosperous nation, and I'm grateful for that. Also grateful for Singapore being the livable city she is today. Yeah. We have sports facilities everywhere, swimming pools, you have basketball courts, you have so many things, right? You have libraries, it's a clean place, it's a green place, you have parks, place for recreation. The only thing I'm unhappy about is the lack of greens. It's the, the clearing of the green spaces, we have so many green spaces now. Clearing of the ground temperature, that's a different story, but that's nothing against Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, right? Because this is what we got talking about. So, and I'm also very happy that it is a meritocratic system. So if I want to be more successful and simple, I would just have to study harder and work harder. Imagine being born in the caste system or system where a certain race is recorded superiority, it would be so much tougher. Imagine being in a society where Asians are benched up for no reason in some anti-Asian neighborhoods. I think you have so much to be grateful for. To be fair and impartial, we'll never know if LKY was the primary causative factor towards Singapore's success. Could there have been someone as equipped or more equipped than him? This view of mine was supported by the BBC. Well, I was thinking about that, and the BBC, I did the BBC video, and it was the same. I did the BBC video after his death anyway. Okay, so nonetheless, what has happened, right? He did his best. He did perform, he did deliver, he did love Singapore and contribute to Singapore when he could have went to UK to become a rich lawyer. He didn't care about Singapore. I also take offense that some say, Lee Kuan Yew did this and Lee Kuan Yew did that. Let us not forget that it was not just Mr. Lee who built the nation. It was a collective effort by the cabinet. Goh Keng Swee, Goh Chok Tong, Dana, okay, and in fact ordinary Singaporeans, doctors, nurses, lawyers, engineers, teachers, social workers, cleaners, and so on. I have a word of advice for you. We should not be blinded by the PAP. We should also not be blinded by the opposition or social activists. Question whatever you come across. Even Francis Sell was a power-hungry crook, according to Sue Button friends. I listened to his story. I was skeptical. I didn't believe it. I wanted to hear the other side. Right? Always be suspicious and think critically. Lastly, I hope the road hate comments can finally stop. Right? He's as a 17-year-old with delusions and grandiose ideas, and this is such a proud prick, okay, which will never work. All these grandiose ideas will never work. Okay, look at his other videos about schooling being useless and all that. Okay, it's pretty mentally unwell. He has some personality disorder, Asperger's syndrome, some autism. Yeah. Even his hair is a sign of something not being very right with his mental faculties. Give him a break. Live and let live. The arms of justice are long enough to reach him. He might even go to jail. There is no need for criminal intimidation or physical violence. No need to take justice into your own hands and allow you to shit yourself. So, Mr. Amos, I wish you all the best in your legal adventure, and please stop the hand actions and stop scrolling at the videos.